guys got to stick around for this. It's really interesting.
What is it?
About to find out.
Hey, everybody. We are back. Winter NAMM, Brad Talinsky for Guitar World Magazine. And we have Jeff here from Boss. I don't know, there's sort of a theme running through this NAMM show of actually genuinely creative, not weird stuff, but really useful new ideas. And you almost think like, how can anybody create something new for the guitar or amplifier? Well, you know, leave it to the people at Boss who have given us so many great things over the years to come up with a genuinely useful and innovative new product. So, Jeff, I mean, tell us a little bit about this guy. First, what's the name of it?
It's the Waza Tube Amp Expander.
The Waza Tube Amp Expander.
And a lot of it, what it is said in the name. It expands all the capabilities and features of your amplifier. It's a little bit of a Swiss Army knife, so it takes a little bit of digesting because there's several things going on here. But I can break it down for you if you don't mind.
You have to break it down. You know, it's only guitar players.
It's only guitar players. Well, first off, you and I were talking about tube amps earlier and how great, awesome tube amps are, especially if you clip the power amp section. As we know, all those great amplifiers that we've loved for years, those classic amps, those classic recordings, it was all about having the power amp clip because they didn't even have master volumes on most of those amplifiers.
Yes.
Nowadays, we put master volumes on which stops that last tube from clipping. And always remember, the last tube is the first tube to clip because each tube adds gain, so it hits the last one first. So one of the problems, though, is anywhere we play today, nobody wants us loud anymore.
Nobody wants to hear a 100-watt amp in a club anymore.
You can't even get 100-watt. Nobody.
Yeah.
You can't even get a 100-watt amp on most professional large venues where everybody's using in-ear monitors.
But we love how they sound.
That's exactly the key to the tone.
Yep.
So what we've come up with here is a reactive load box. And the reactive load box, what it is it emulates what a speaker does back to the amplifier. Most of us, when we talk about an amplifier, we think of it as a speaker as just like an EQ device. I like the sound of that one because it's brighter or darker or more major, whatever. Yep. But in reality, the speaker becomes part of the circuit of the amplifier, and it ripples back all the way through the amp. When you first connect a speaker, like if I connect a Greenback 25's cabinet, the impedance, the inductance of it, we always think of it as like 8 ohm or 16 ohms, but it really is a really complex curve and that's fed back into the amplifier. It comes back into it. You adjust it every day. It's your presence knob. Your presence knob is being fed back into the phase inverter. It comes from the speaker. So your entire speaker is part of your sound. So there have been reactive load boxes that have been coming out over the past few years, but typically they're one reactive load. So if I have a half stack, I don't necessarily want a reactive load for a 1x12,
right? Because
my presence knob could be 500 hertz or 1,000 hertz off, and my transformer distortion's not doing what it was supposed to do, and I've screwed up my head. So with this, we have 16 different cabinet choices for reactive load. So, and that's really important because now my amplifier can act as if it's connected to those devices. Once I've got it there, I've got a continuously variable volume control. And I can take it all the way up to 100 watts of volume or back down to nothing. Right? I don't even need that on there. In addition to that, I can add effects, and I can add effects that are coming in post that distortion. I've got reverb. I've got an effects on-off, so I can give you compression and delay. There's an optional foot switch. You can even do tap tempo from the optional foot switch and channel changing. I have an effects loop. How many of us had that classic head, taken it to a tech, had them put in an effects loop to only have the thing never sound as cool as it once did?
Always sucks.
I've seen a lot of good heads get ruined. I'm sure you have too. Yeah. So now I can add an effects loop to any amp in my house. Right? I can pull them all out. And when I'm running that amp, I can just set that master volume right to 10, go for it, get all that power amp distortion, all that love, get it from the right area, and I can add EQ. I can do an EQ boost on the thing. I can even, if I have an amp changer, I can do an amp switch here.
Now I'm going to translate for some of the people at home.
That was a lot to digest. Sorry.
Who didn't get all the signs of that. Now, if I'm getting this right from you, so the classic example of this is Eddie Van Halen back in the day had his 100-watt Marshall.
Yep.
And he loved the sound of it completely cranked.
Yep.
But none of the clubs would let him in the door because the damn thing was too loud. So he created this wacky thing, the Variac, that was able to, you'd be able to boost the amp to get all the tone out of it, but it just kept the volume manageable.
So the earliest Eddie Van Halen stories that we've all heard are about the Brown sound, and that was more of a variac thing where he was using a variac to pull the voltage rails down.
Right.
And when you pull the voltage rails down, you lose volume, but you also get more distortion.
Yep.
That was a good classic way, but when he went to go for his first tour, if all the stuff I've read online is true, and it's not always true, but I've seen some pretty good stories about it. One of his earliest touring rigs was to take a 100-watt head, put it into a load box,
right.
and now it was basically acting as a preamp.
Yep.
And now that it was acting as a preamp, then he put his post effects, like his post, like I think he had a Space Echo or an Echoplex after that, and some other things that came post distortion, and then ran that through various power amps.
Right.
This also has a power amp in it, so you are sort of doing the same thing. You're putting a reactive load, which is interactive with the amplifier, getting the voltage down, and then I have a 100-watt amp that's here. So if you've bought one of those amplifiers, because we've all been, for the past few years, buying 10 and 20-watt amplifiers to try and get that power amp tone.
You can't do it.
Well, yeah, exactly. They sound different, but if you wanted to plug it in here, I can even bring that up to 100 watts of volume. Which is,
wow.
So if you have a nice champ or something like that
yeah.
that you like the tone of, go ahead and dime it. But in all of it, you know, take a classic amps like an AC30 Deluxe, a Bassman. I can add an effects loop to any one of them. I can add reverb to any one of them. I can add a delay and compressor to any one of them. With the channel changer, the other day I was connected to I think it was a JCM 900, and it has the clean channel and the distortion channel.
Yep.
You know how difficult it is to try and get the clean channel to sound good and keep up with volume with the distortion channel? It's always a nightmare. But with this, I set the drive nice and low. I compensated for the gain in here, and then I decided to EQ it a little bit when I was on that clean channel. It sparkled it up, made it nice and clean, threw a little bit of compression on it, and I had a gorgeous clean sound that matched up in volume with my compressor.
So I think what you're telling me here is that we're bringing a new meaning to the word stack, because you have your speaker, you have your head. Now you want to stack this on top of...
Yes. Maybe that's what we should have named it. Waza Tube Amp Expander is a bit of a mouthful, but tells you what it does. But stack maybe is it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you stack this onto anything you have, and it really expands the capability of that amplifier that's been sitting in the closet or in your garage, right? You can pull it out now. You can put it to use. You can play it at full volume, what it was meant to do. You get all the tone, and you add programmability, effects, loops, things like that. And you don't even have to plug a speaker cabinet into it because you do have DI out on this guy. So on the back here, we have stereo out, and all the effects that are in here are stereo out that go out to your DI for either the house or for your recording device. Have a USB out, so it can actually act as your audio interface. Have a mono front of house out. I mentioned that we do have effects send and return, which are switchable between series and parallel. And just it's a Swiss Army knife of everything I've ever wanted.
Yeah, it's cool, and like I said, because it's a bit of a new idea, right? You shouldn't be afraid of it, because it can interact with almost any system, any amp system that you have. But if people want to get a clearer idea of what this is and what it does, is there some place online where they can go check it out, get more information?
Yeah, go visit us at boss.info, and we'll be able to give you a rundown on this, all the details, all the features, all the bullet points, because it is a little bit to understand. But the thing you need to understand is that classic amp you got in the closet, you can now crank it up, make it do what it was meant to sound like.
Well, it's one of those things, you know. Again, boss.info, I want to reinforce that's where you can check it out. It's sort of like when you talk about it, it sounds complicated, but all of a sudden when you plug it in and hear what it does to your sound, like you go, oh yeah, okay,
yeah,
I got that.
I know that.
I got that, absolutely. So so this is really, like I said, a genuinely interesting piece of gear that I think we're going to hear a lot about for years to come.
Yeah, and for the direct out, there's 24 cabinets to choose from. You can choose mic location, mic position,
Wow.
right room, whether it's an anechoic chamber or a smaller big room. And of course, you can download your own IRs. So if you want to capture your own or buy somebody else's, you can put them on there as well.
And you know what? I'm a guitar player. What I like about this thing is it's got knobs. It doesn't, like, there's no there's not a bunch of numbers that I have to scroll through. Like I can, it looks pretty easy to actually
Yeah,
use.
there is a software editor that you can connect to it and do detailed editing and patch library and stuff, and set up your different 10 patches for your AC30 versus your Plexi or whatever. But it's all easy to use and not going to hurt anybody's head.
Who do you think is the main customer for this?
The main customer for this is actually anybody who owns a tube amp. I mean, what I think one of the big things, travesties of our world today is that guitar players, if they've got a gig with a professional artist that's in-ear, they're not allowed to play stuff loud on stage, and so they can't get that feel. And then they go to their band rehearsal, and they've got a loud amp to try and keep up with the drummer. And then they go to another scenario. They got 3, 4, 5 rig setups that they're doing. They do something different in the studio than they do. This incorporates everything that your amp does, gives it way more features and capabilities, and then you just take your entire one rig anywhere you're going. If you're doing in-ears, you don't even need to bring a speaker cabinet, just take it with you. The studio, don't even need a cabinet.
So hit me up with the name of this again.
It's the Waza Tube Amp Expander.
Great. So knowing Boss, this can't be the only thing that they're bringing out this
We did
year.
bring out something else that's quite fun, and I have one of them back here in my pocket. A few years ago, we came out with a product which was called the Blues Cube amplifiers. It's under the Roland brand name, and Blues Cube amplifiers had something really unique about them, which is that we call Tube Logic, which is us studying how power amps actually work in that whole interplay between the speaker and stuff that we do here, but in those amplifiers. And as we did those, we came up with a tone capsule ability that you could put into the back of the amplifier, so you could plug it in and get new sounds. To date, we've done several of them. We've done one for Robin Ford, excuse me, Oz Noy, Eric Fletcher, Kurt Fletcher, sorry, and of course Eric Johnson. And just recently, this week here at NAMM, we have a new one, which we call Sparkle Clean, which is with our good friend Jeff Skunk Baxter of many, many, many famous places and
nice.
things.
Nice.
Right? And Jeff worked with us directly here for a while, trying to get this what we call Sparkle Clean, but it's like a harmonically rich Sparkle Clean. He's been using it with his guitar, he's been using it with lap steel, which he's really big on, and I like it because a lot of the modern sounds that I've been hearing younger players playing, they're playing these nice, classic, clean sounds, and doing the two-handed stuff with the clean stuff, and I think this would work perfect for them. It's a really unique tone.
Well, thanks for stopping by. You've certainly given us a lot to chew on here. And again, it's boss.info.
Yes.
If you want to find out more about this baby or the smaller guy. and I guess just about anything else that you want to find out about Boss gear and the latest things coming out. Well, thanks for stopping by.
Thanks for having me.
I really appreciate it. Okay, everybody, we're going to sign off for a minute or two, but we have so much more to bring you from this great Winter NAMM in Anaheim. Thank you.
Thank you.